Hi, I'm not Grant Shadden. Don't panic, don't adjust your monitor. Grant will be back soon. I, Tim Southwell, will be with you for the next few weeks as we dive back into ABC Acres and taking a look at some of our permaculture happenings. I'm coming to you today from what we refer to as our boneyard here at ABC Acres. Much like other farms and ranches across the area, there are places where we put materials, items that we just don't need right now, things that are left over from previous projects. You'll see behind me we have some sheet metal that came off of a structure that we took down years ago. That was a roofing material. We have concrete blocks that were part of a stem wall. We have pallets, gates, we have conduit, old tractor tires, things that most folks would go ahead and discard. But from a permaculture perspective, we're always looking kind of outside the box. Let's store this away, let's see what develops from observation, and perhaps we can utilize it to develop a new project. I'd like you to join me today as we walk around the property and take a look at a number of projects where we have taken a perceived waste product and developed it into a very viable use here on the farm at ABC Acres. I'm coming to you today from what we refer to as our goat and pig paddocks here on the north side of the farm. You will notice behind me the Bitterroot Mountains are on fire. Roaring Lion Draw caught fire Sunday 2 days ago, and state and local officials are busy working to put that out. To my sides, we have what are referred to as chicken tractors. If you're familiar with Polyface Farms and Joel Salatin, we picked up that design from him. These helicopters are loud. Anyway, what we did is we utilized the sheet metal that came off of an old structure that was taken down 3 years ago. We held onto that sheet metal in the boneyard. It wasn't bothering anybody until we came up with a design, a need for it. We saw a need to raise our meat burrs on pasture, moving them every day. And so even though they're not in use, this is just one way we have taken a building material that for most would have been discarded. But we saw a use for it, we've put it into action, and from that standpoint, we're reaping the rewards. Again, taking advantage of all that the goat and pig paddocks have to offer, I wanted to showcase the concrete slabs we have in each one of our 19 paddocks. Instead of loading those up at such a time that they came off the property and putting them in a landfill, we decided to go ahead and put one slab in each one of the goat paddocks. They're raised up higher so the goats can somewhat play and romp and vie for top goat in the herd. By going on the concrete, they're actually dulling their hooves down. So from a standpoint of trimming and constantly having to stay on top of that, the amount of maintenance is reduced with the use of the concrete slab. So it has been a real positive addition. At the same time, they actually bring an element of shade. So some of our smaller piglets have actually used it to get out of the sun. So it's proving to be worthy in multiple respects. Our next stop takes us to our implement shed. This is for where we house our organic grain that we supplemental feed the goats during milking. We also supplemental feed the hogs as well. And then we also supplemental feed the chickens that are out on pasture. So a shout out to Big Sky Organics out of Montana for a high quality feed. What I wanted to do in showing this was these tote bags. These are 1 ton tote bags. And so what we like to do is, as I made you sick in moving that around, is we take the leftover old tote bags, we construct them using old pallets. Again, 2 waste materials, totes and pallets. We utilize them to build these large 3-foot cubed recycling containers. And so our number 1, 2 plastics go in there, our glass go in another, our aluminum cans go in another, and when they reach the top, they're covered up. We load them with the tractor and forks into the back of the pickup truck, and we take them into the recycling center an hour's drive away. So again, another way of not only reusing waste, the tote bags and the pallets, but we're utilizing them to make something where we can actually collect more recyclables to keep out of the landfill, and off they go. So again, seeing a waste, turning it into a positive for everyone's benefit. Hi, coming to you from ABC Acres Treehouse here in the playground area. We have farm stays here at ABC Acres, and the playground is just a way that we cater to some of the kids when they want to just let loose and have some fun. What I wanted to point out here was our railing and the spindles. These are old crate assemblies of products that we've received over the last couple of years. We just go ahead and break them down, store them away until we find a use for them. And so it's really worked out well here. Another thing that you might have noticed is some of our aged sheet metal. These were on some old bunkhouses on the farm from a few years back. They were not livable at all, so we had them taken down and again deconstructed, store the material, find a use, repurpose it. You'll find examples of that all throughout the farm. So, woo! Ride 'em, cowboy! Okay, coming to you again from the playground. Here we have some farm tractor tires, no longer applicable within the agriculture arena, but instead of us sending them away, here they are in the playground, just another opportunity for the kids to interact and have fun while they're here during their farm stays. Other uses we've seen for these are using them as flower pots. So again, there are diverse ways to utilize what would be seen as a waste. Behind me sits pallets of rock, and if you have seen some of Grant's previous videos, you would have noticed some of our landscape, some of our agricultural landscape is chock full of river rock. Well, these pallets behind us are literally rocks that Grant and I, over the last couple of years, have walked through the property and collected. We went to the local supplier in town and got the pallets for free. We did buy the wire, we created these rock pallets, and believe it or not, looking at this, we actually collected over 120 pallets. Grant and myself, strong backs, through over 2 years, collected all that rock. So to say the least, at ABC Acres, we have rock. Did I say we have rock? We have a lot of rock. Now, no, Grant and I did not hand pick all of this. This actually was screened from the property when we built a home structure, and we used a geothermal system to heat and cool the house. And so when we excavated the ground for the geothermal coils to go in, we went ahead and screened the rock. We see a use for the rock. And even though it's not a waste product in the sense of traditional day-to-day life, you will notice in some agriculture settings over the last 50 years, 100 years, farmers have literally scraped their fields clean of the rock, and they have these large collections of rock off the side of the pasture. Well, in seeing that, that sparked Grant and I to understand how can we utilize the rock as an asset rather than a waste product. Hi, honey. Well, you may or may not be familiar with the term gabion. Gabions you usually see along the highway as roadside embankment underneath underpasses. And so we had a lot of this rock, and we're like, I really like that design. How can we utilize that? So one of the things we did is we invested with a road construction company to pick up new gabion cages. And I'm actually sitting on a new wall that we are constructing, have been constructing for the last 2 or 3 days. It separates basically the lawn yard area, which will house the children and some of their activities. And then behind us is our pasture where presently we rotate our cattle through. So utilizing this asset of rocks strewn off the pasture over the last 70 odd years by local farmers, as well as rocks that we picked up along the way, and utilizing the results or benefits of a modern day construction of the geothermal system, we took all these rocks and now we're putting them into use. The gabion cages will literally have a 75-year guarantee with PVC coated, and the rock is going to be an amazing structure that we will build on and wrap the yard. So here we are at a new structure here on the farm in the last 6 months. We took that rock, a waste product strewn onto the side of the pastures, along the roadways, in the irrigation ditch. We collected that rock, and this is actual rock that Grant and I collected. It did not come from underneath the ground during the geothermal build. You'll notice discoloration through water, through sun. You've got some lichen and moss growing on it. Adds a real pretty interesting texture to the property, or to the structure, and is certainly a a wonderful piece that we've added to ABC Acres. So again, how can we utilize products? How can we use materials, things seen as waste or doesn't have a use, collect it, repurpose it, and now we've got a structure that, all going well, will stand for hundreds of years. Other things you can utilize with the rocks and the gabions that you saw earlier, one thing we're going to be working on is creating garden beds. We're going to try to pick up on the thermal mass of the rocks and see how that goes. We're going to toy with a few other things as well, and I'm sure we'll be back to you on that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out this video with our last example. Here we have limb debris, branch clippings, as well as, to my left, your right, leaf, pine needle waste. We have a relationship with a lawn service in town. They are free to come to the farm throughout the week and drop various levels of waste. We see what it is, we show them where we want it to be. And so the delimbing, the clippings, the branches, we go ahead and bring our chipper, our tractor attachment chipper, which you may have seen in the implement shed earlier in the video. We'll chip this up and create a level of mulch, and then we'll go ahead and just distribute that across the farm wherever we need it. Much like our utility trench here, this is a hugel bed trench. It's actually a 400-foot trench. We went ahead and trenched it, we buried it with wood, we covered it back up with soil, and now we're actually recovering it with leaf debris, grass clippings, pine needle collections, and we're actually trying to understand how we're going to go ahead and plant to that next year. But again, residential waste can be an agricultural asset. So those are relationships that you should look to outside of what your farm has to offer from a standpoint of recycling, repurposing, and reuse. Well, in closing, if you do have any questions, as Grant would say, leave them in the comment box below. And as always, thanks for watching.